Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to welcome you again to Advisors Webinars. Tonight, we are lucky to have our dear friend, Dr. Radhia Benalia. She's going to speak about emotional intelligence. First of all, I'd like to announce several things before we start. First of all, we just made a milestone some seconds before with exceeding 1,000 registrations. Now, normally, last time we had over 900 and 400 maximum came in, not necessarily at the same time. So this is a milestone. Thank you very much for your participation and for your trust in us. This is a great encouragement for us to proceed further on. Now, to recap what we have been doing so far, we started this activity just days before Ramadan. I gave the first seminar, which is about breaking organizational silos during the times of disruption. And following, we had Dr. Ibrahim Shira from Quality of Life Program Vision 2030, who spoke about public-private partnership and how they are affected by the pandemic. The third one, week 3, was Dr. Al Zaytoun. Dr. Al Zaytoun, other than being a good friend of mine, he has two things that are very interesting to me personally. When I did my PhD at Schema Business School in 2016, my defense, he was one of the external examiners. The other thing is that during PMI 50, he was elected as PMI Fellow. This is the highest degree or certification offered by PMI to anybody. This is a lifetime achievement thing. And Dr. Al Zaytoun, he spoke about balancing processes, governance, and other aspects for organizational sustainability. Now, week 4, last week, the last week of Ramadan was very special because we had Antonio Nieto Rodriguez. Actually, I'm sorry, Dr. Al was number 4. Number 3 was Antonio Nieto Rodriguez. Antonio was the chairman of PMI in 2016. He's one of Thinkers 50. He has several books that he wrote. And two things that are very interesting about Antonio that occurred lately. We announced the Strategy Implementation Institute and the new certification by APMG. We are very happy about this. Actually, I'm thinking to study and maybe earn it myself if I can. Now, the other thing, just the past week, he signed an agreement with Harvard Business Review to write a new book about Project Revolution. This is something really, really amazing. And finally, the panel between myself, Mark Langley, and Antonio Nieto Rodriguez, which was quite amazing. I personally enjoyed it. Now, having said all that, I'd like to, because we are now on time, I'd like now to introduce Dr. Radhia Benalia, our speaker for tonight. So, Dr. Radhia, can you please show yourself on the video and unmute yourself?
Hi.
Okay. Hi, good evening, Radhia. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Alhamdulillah. How are you? First of all, Dr. Radhia, I know her from years back. We worked together on a great program.
Don't make me look too old, Sadi.
Okay. Okay. I know her from a little bit before. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not that old. المهم, we worked together on a great program for several years. It was a great success. And then we worked together in my past company for several years, and together with advisors, which started in 2016. Now, during that period, I enrolled in Schema Business School to do my PhD, along with Dr. Radhia Benalia, and Dr. Muhammad Bukhari. The three of us were working together at my past company. And we all graduated with distinction. Then Radhia was asked to speak at Boston University and other places about her achievements. The PhD was in project and program management. Now, Radhia has a long history, not that long, okay, because she's not that old, in terms of in terms of
Good.
okay, Nilna Rida. In terms of public speaking or public presence, she was nominated for, I think, Senate or House of Senates
It's the
in
Legislative
Canada.
Assembly in British Columbia, Canada, Saudi.
Okay, you know better. Okay,
Right.
So she was about to become a politician. Okay, and she has. We worked together afterwards at the American University of Beirut in the project management postgraduate diploma, and we established something amazing. Great people were impacted and affected by that, and she used to offer leadership, project management, and many interesting topics. Now, enough me talking. I'm gonna go in the background and I will leave the room for you. But before that, I need to say a quick thank you for our partners. Okay, our collaboration partners. I'd like to thank, first of all, this week we have two chapters who decided to collaborate with us. We are thankful to them and all the others to pass on the invitation to our webinars to their members, Budapest and Moscow. I'd like to thank, of course, Tunisia chapter, Zimbabwe, Saudi Arabia, Central Italy. Let us move a bit to see the others. Cote d'Ivoire, Uganda, Botswana, and Mauritius. Also, I'd like to thank Strategy Implementation Institute, Antonio Rodriguez, and Guild of Project Controls. You're gonna see more about Guild of Project Controls when we introduce. Next week we'll have Mustafa Hafizoglu from Turkey, but the week after we'll have Dr. Sean Regan from the States, and you know more about the Guild of Project Controls. Having said that, I'm gonna go away in the background, and you'll not hear back from me until the end, until Radhia finishes her seminar. Then following, we will have questions and answers. So Radhia, welcome again. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Saadi. Good evening, everyone. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi. I hope you had a great Eid for those who celebrated. And I'm really grateful that you've all come tonight. I just want to check that voice and video are fine. Yes? I'm looking at the chat box here to see if I'm being heard.
Radhia, we hear you very well. It's great.
Okay, great.
Okay, go on.
Right, okay. So I'm going back to my slides. Tonight, I'd like to talk to you about emotional intelligence, and I'd like to maybe dispel some myths and help clarify some things. Now, I first would like to set some expectations. You see, the presenter doesn't get to see the chats all the time, so you might be saying something very interesting, but I wouldn't have seen it. So please feel free to engage with each other. As far as I mean, as fast as I can go, I cannot beat your brain speed. So maybe to help keep, attention, you can engage with each other and take notes and maybe ask at the end. I'd love to hear your questions. So topics, we'll talk about importance of emotional intelligence, how to apply it in our personal and professional lives, how to apply it in teams. We'll talk about emotional intelligence and leadership and change, and how to promote a culture of emotional intelligence. So I'd like to run a little poll first to see where we're at. Remember, I don't see who says what, so I'd like you to be very honest about this. It's what you think, your perspective on emotional intelligence. So number one, you believe emotional intelligence is genuinely important. Oh, wow. That's great. Did I publish? Everything's fine. You can see the result. I have 100% of people who believe that emotional intelligence is important. Well, that's great. It will make my work tonight much easier. I'm glad you're all set about the importance of emotional intelligence. However, I'd like to give a little bit of background. So EI was first coined not by Daniel Goleman, like most people think, but by two researchers by the name of Mayer and Salvi. It was popularized though by Daniel Goleman, and it's become very much talked about. So much that, according to Career Builder, hiring managers say over 70% of employers said they value emotional intelligence over intellectual intelligence. So specifically for executive positions, IQ and technical skills are only considered entry-level skills. So that's a biggie, actually, because it's really important to understand that in order to reach a leadership position, to maintain it, to succeed at it, we need to have very strong emotional skills or emotional intelligence skills. So again, Goleman research is very much known about emotional intelligence, and he went as far to say that it is twice as important as other skills in determining leadership. So people who have very high emotional intelligence are more likely to be good leaders. Some people say it's an ability, others say it's a personal trait. What matters for us is to know that it can be developed, and we can train or offer training to help people gain or develop their emotional intelligence skills. So that's really important to keep in mind. You know how they have always this debate about, are leaders born or made? Same thing with emotional intelligence. Some people say it's inherent. It could be, but it doesn't mean that people cannot develop it. So it's really important to keep that in mind. So this is one of the definitions of emotional intelligence. If you look at the keywords, look at emotional, social, influence, relationships, coping. So all of that, meaningful for significance, all of that is very, very important, especially for someone in a leadership position. So nowadays, this is what we have. We have a very volatile, uncertain, complex, and very ambiguous context or world that we work in, whether we work in projects or not. So let me ask you something. Where does complexity come from? Do you see more complexity nowadays? And where do you think it comes from? Hassan says no poll window appears. You didn't have the poll? I've got results though. Okay. Environment, people. Lack of clarity, okay. Lifestyle, people again. Absolutely. So complexity comes from, the fact that we have more and more stakeholders, people involved in all these interactions. Some complexity comes from the dependencies of elements of a system, but specifically from the dependencies or the interactions between stakeholders. So that's why we have more and more complex projects, right? And of course, ambiguity. We have really a lack of clarity that we need to deal with, and we knew nothing. We never expected that this could happen. So I don't have a poll for this, but I'd like to see on the chat box maybe some of your reactions for COVID-19. So how did you feel? What the heck is happening? Well, I was so. I dealt with it. Did you have a panic attack, or actually maybe with someone a little bit older? Sadi felt like the cat. Sadi loves cats, so that might be the reason. But I'd like to see more engagement from your part. Please tell me. Frustrated. So. Room to improve. Okay. I think we might have felt a little bit somewhere, all of us, at different times, someone here where the cat is, or even, so, right? Nice, calm and observing, Muhammad. That's really nice. So yes, a lot of your reaction had to do with actually your emotional intelligence skills. I mean, it doesn't mean that you don't have any, but people who are very, very emotionally intelligent are usually more adaptable to a new situation. And again, it's something that we can develop, and we can get training for, all of us. I mean, there's certainly a lot of room for improvement, even for myself. And I'm speaking about the topic tonight. And then, of course, there's also this extra reaction I've got from Dilbert. So some people were in total denial. But in all cases, we had some people who felt completely doomed because of the situation. And this is because, this is because some people can just not imagine a different situation from what they are at in the current time. So going through the crisis, going through COVID-19, some people just couldn't imagine that it would be different. And this is why they really felt, like they were doomed. Others became very creative, very innovative, and were thinking already what to do next, how to adapt to a new situation. So emotional intelligence competencies include quite a few things. There's self-awareness, self-management, relationship management, and of course, social awareness or empathy. So self-awareness is something that's really important. It's being aware about our own emotions, how we feel, what upsets us, and how we react. Do we distance between reactions and responses, for example? So how do we manage our emotions as well? How do we establish and maintain relationships? And also social awareness is being aware of, other people. So you have this kind of people who just, this person who just enters a room and they look around and they already have a feel of whether people are happy or stressed, or if they're enthusiastic about a kickoff meeting, let's say, or not. So it's really important to think of that, because some people are highly intelligent in other domains, but they are almost oblivious when it's about being aware of other people's emotions. So it's really important to think of that and to ask around whether you come through as someone who is, who is attentive to what's happening elsewhere. So I have another poll for you, and I hope this will go well as well. Okay. I don't see the poll. Yes, now. So wow. Again, you guys are really good. 95%. Okay. Things are changing a little bit. All right. You're still good though. I see the bars are still dancing, like another presenter said before. So what do you think? You think 50% of people are self-aware? 90% are self-aware, they just don't know how to show it. You have no clue. Or actually, it's the grim 95% that think they're self-aware, but only 10 to 15% really are. Okay. So I think we're set now. And you tell me, please, if you see the results. So yeah, it was 95%. Unfortunately, 95% of people think they're self-aware, but only 10 to 15% really are, which can really be a problem in a team. When you think you're aware of your emotions, you're aware of how you're dealing with people, and actually you aren't. So the only way, or one of the best ways to know whether you are or you're not, is to do a 360 degrees. Ask everyone, your peers, your bosses, your reports, your family. Although it takes a lot of courage to listen to their answers, but it's good for development. So emotionally intelligent people are aware of their emotions. You know how sometimes we get into a conflict and someone says, you're upset. And right away we say, no, I'm not, because we become very defensive. But actually we are upset, and it's fine to be upset about some things. Now, the idea here is to distance between the reaction and the response. I can be upset, but I should not. Okay, I see you lost me. Sadi, do we have the results of the poll showing? Because it was done for me on the slide, on the screen. Okay, you can see me and hear me, right? All right, I'm back. Good. All right, I'll continue then. Emotionally intelligent people are quite aware of their emotions, and they know they're strong at turning the volume on them, which means that when they're upset, they know how to master some composure and not go crazy when they're in a conflict. Emotionally intelligent people also are quite optimistic, because they're people who focus on resolution. So I have a problem. What can I do to resolve the problem, instead of feeling really bad about ourselves and throwing self-pity parties and thinking it's horrible, it happens to me all the time, and things like that. So it's really important to think whether on what side we are. The emotionally intelligent people, they also manage better the work-family conflict. They know better how to manage stress from work, not take it home. So that's quite important. That's very important. Research has been done on how children react to working parents, and a lot of the results say that it's not so much the parent working, but how much stress they bring home. So that's quite an important thing as well. Emotionally intelligent people react to surprise criticism with more composure. So what is surprise criticism? It's when people come and criticize you when you don't expect it at all. Like you think you're having a very good project or a very good, presentation or training session, and suddenly someone comes and says, this is not going well, etc. So some people are very good at keeping their composure when they're being criticized like that. Others are less good at it. So we need to be aware of what kind of people are we. Are we the ones that just right away go defensive, get very angry, want to retaliate even by bringing up some past events and conflicts to show that it's not us, it's the other people. We just we're doing very well. So emotionally intelligent people don't mind criticism as much as other people. So Said asks how to maintain the composure. Well, first of all, think about it in an objective manner, even if it comes from someone who doesn't like you very much. And of course, it takes two to tango. So some people, sometimes they just give you negative criticism because they don't like you, and yet you still need to keep your composure and think, is there something right there? Is there something that I should change? And I'm not going to worry now about whether this person likes me or not. Hello, Claude. Mohammed, composure, it means that I don't go crazy, I keep calm. I don't go crazy about someone saying, I'm not having a very good project or training session or whatever. That's really important. So the higher we go in emotional intelligence, the better we are with with criticism. And it's not easy. I know it's not easy at all, but it's something that we can develop. And small wins are good. We're not going to change characters overnight, but for example, yes, means keeping calm and showing that you're calm. So for example, someone gives you a criticism, and you find out that you see that you're dealing better this time, that you have better this time than last time. So that's better. A quick win. A small win is better than nothing. If you know you have a quick temper, of course, you're not going to be, changing very fast. But small wins, unlearning the small bad habits is what makes us mentally strong, So being strict is different from displaying anger. It's very different. Assertiveness is actually something that belongs very well with emotional intelligence. So emotionally intelligent people are people who can be assertive. They can say that they don't like something, or they don't, they're upset about something, but in a way that wouldn't offend others. They'd be very diplomatic, and they wouldn't display quite, too much anger about it. So that's the thing. There's a difference between being firm and assertive. You see, that's a good word. Being assertive is a good word, and it's good for emotional intelligence. Being aggressive, having a quick temper, that's not good. You see, this is the difference. This is why emotional intelligence is really important. Very often, when I talk about emotional intelligence with some people, they have this image of someone who's smiling all the time, who's saying yes to everyone. It's actually not that. Yes, positiveness and is a very good thing. Having a positive share is a very good thing. But the problem is that you cannot please. I mean, the question here is, can you please everyone all the time? Absolutely not. And a leader shouldn't seek to please everyone all the time. Leadership is not convenient. You want to be diplomatic, you want to be careful with people not to offend them, but you need to be firm and assertive when you need to. So being assertive, being optimistic, accepting, surprise criticism, all of these are things that are very important when we speak about emotional intelligence. Also, people who are emotionally intelligent are not, trying to please everyone all the time. They're not mean, but they don't go crazy if someone doesn't like them. So it's important to keep that in mind. I mean, it shouldn't be a carte blanche to offend people, especially when you're in a leadership position. It shouldn't be a carte blanche or a green light to offend people. But, at the same time, we need to accept that we're not going to be liked by everyone, and that's fine. But of course, diplomacy is important. And diplomacy is not only for people who work at embassies. Diplomacy is, it means choosing the right words to be more accepted by people. So, first of all, emotional intelligence here for pointers is very much related to energy. So, you know how we talk about it. Sometimes we have a lot of time, we're very available, but we have no energy at all. And one of the things that helps keep energy is, energy management. How do you really manage your energy? Okay, you've got a lot of time, but you have energy. Getting angry drains your energy. Trying to please everyone drains your energy. Getting frustrated about everyone's feedback to you is really draining for your energy. So one of the things that a lot of organizations encourage their leaders to do, and some of them they even make it a requirement, is for the leader to write a journal. So they write a journal every day. It doesn't have to be the great American novel, as they say, but just a few lines, a few things about how have I done today with my team, with my family, as a spouse, as a child, as a parent, and have I improved? Is there something I could have done better? And I'm going to take back now all the I's and me's and say, if you do it in the third person, it's really helpful because you distance yourself a little bit from, what you did. Let's say I write something and I say, Radhia could have been much more understanding. She should have listened better. It's different than just writing I. That's psychologically, it really helps keeping a distance and being more objective. So reflection truly helps. And like I said, it doesn't have to be very long. If you just, reflect on what you do, zooming out, some people zoom out while doing long walks. Now it's not available for everyone, but still it's, it's still the case for a lot of people. During walking or doing things that they enjoy doing. So they zoom out and they think about the big picture. And so that's quite important. All right, so empathy is really important. So a study has been done by the Creative Center for Leadership, and the study shows that ability to understand what others are feeling, and that's exactly what empathy is, clearly contributes to effective leadership. It's actually very tightly connected to performance. So the study says that, okay, what happened in the study is they asked reports. So they asked team members, how empathetic is your leader. And the ones that received high scores are the same ones that were very positively critiqued by their bosses. So that's a very, very important thing. So empathy is a competency that allows you to read people. You're in a meeting and you're thinking, okay, my team looks quite stressed, or there's something one who's upset. Empathy is the ability for you that enables you to differentiate between someone who's passionate and a workaholic. So let me ask you a question. Would you like to have a workaholic on your team? Some people, they love it. I had someone, who was at a very high level position once, that said, I love having workaholic. Someone who is compulsive about working. They stop working only when they have to, right? So is that a good thing? Obviously not. No, it's not good at all. Once Saadi was talking about the program in AUB, we had in one of the sessions in my leadership course or workshop, I had a general manager who came with a group of managers from pharma company, and he said, I'd like you to talk to my team because we had a very performing person on our team. And yes, they do for me too, Nasira, and hello to you. And we lost him because he was working too much. When we did really a root cause analysis, if you will, we found out that no, it wasn't the managers that really burdened him with a lot of work. It was this person was a perfectionist. It was never good enough for him, and he was continuously redoing the work, continuously doing it because he didn't like the quality of it. So we need to look out for these things. That's important. Differentiate between someone who is motivated and someone who is who is about to have a burnout. That's really different. Resilience. What do you think? What do you think? So resilience, first of all, they say, some people say, resilience is different from emotional intelligence, but actually, research says that to have resilience, you need to have emotional intelligence. So, what is resilience? It means that basically you can bounce back after a crisis, or actually even maybe bounce forward after hardship. People who are resilient, they take hardship with a cool head. Yes, Faiza, they don't give up. They find significance, so they find purpose. They think, okay, this is maybe good for me, for my character development. And they're very strong at make do. So they continually improvise, they adapt, they innovate instead of feeling sorry about what's happening with them. So resilience is very important. So now, what can we do to help teams with, with emotional intelligence? One of the things that's really important is to talk about it. It doesn't work if it doesn't become a criterion. You need to show people that this is so important for us. We all need to develop our emotional intelligence skills. We need to train ourselves and others for better listening. The world needs more good listeners, right? I heard a story about someone who was a CEO, and he did a 360 once, and a lot of people said, you're a great leader, but you just don't listen. So he wrote a note for himself that said on his desk, where nobody else could see, shut up and listen. So anytime anyone else wanted to talk to him, he'd feel compelled to say something. He'd read the note and he'd keep quiet. So with teams, encourage perspective taking. Think, with one member of the team, say, what about, how about you think about the other person's perspective? That's really important. And go beyond value statements. Companies are full of value statements. They say a lot of times, we value respect, we value consideration, we value leadership and EI, but it doesn't actually play out in their daily. The leader is very autocratic, and it doesn't show that it really matters for the company. So reward the good behaviors, not just the good performance, but also the good behavior. When you critique someone, when you evaluate someone, it shouldn't be only on their numbers. It should also be on how much value they bring to the team or to the company. Some people, they bring a lot of positiveness. Some other people, they bring, a higher professionalism. So everyone is different, and we have to think about that. And of course, while working across culture, it requires even more, emotional intelligence, because we need to do that with different cultural perspectives. So like I said, in teams, it's really important to encourage everyone to think about, or to walk in someone else's shoes. Like, what would you have done? Or what if this had happened to you instead of this other person? So there's, the what they call the must reads of HBR, the Harvard Business Review. There is the 2020 includes one article that's called "Surprising Power of Questions." It's very interesting. I highly recommend you read it, and it shows you how important it is to ask questions, and how it develops, helps develop emotional intelligence, not only for ourselves but also for the team. So as project managers, for those of us here who are project managers often or always, we have this déformation professionnelle, of making a lot of assumptions, assumptions. So the only way to lift those is to actually ask WH questions. Why are we here? How come this happened? How do you feel? Who can do this? Okay, questions, very basic ones that can help. So the exchange of, ideas and opinions is highly encouraged by questions. So this should absolutely be encouraged in teams. I have got another poll for you here. Okay, I don't see the bars. Okay, now they've started moving. Something that's really important and very much connected to emotional intelligence is communication. So signaling any type of emotions, like a smile, for example, in an email is not professional. That's number one. It's a practice that should only be adopted with peers, not senior managers, for instance. It's acceptable to use it to remove any communication ambiguity. What the heck are you talking about? So what do you think? All right. Okay. Okay. So, and Paul. Yeah, actually, of course, there's always a cultural dimension to that, but it's okay to in most cultures, it's okay to add a smile, the small ones, just the colon with the parentheses in an email, because it helps display better your emotions in the email, actually. Some people, say it's never acceptable to show any type of emotions, but we are not talking about someone being angry here, or yelling at people by writing in capitals. We're talking about maybe softening a message by adding a small smile. So, they've even done a study. I think it was HBR actually. I'll go back and check it out. But it's totally accepted to add small signs to alleviate any type of ambiguity that we might have when we email people. Because you see, a lot of people believe that they're very confident they're able to relay emotions. So they're able to show they're happy, or they're a little upset, or they're motivated or passionate, but actually it's not always the case. Another emotional intelligence dimension is decision making. So that's a biggie, because a lot of times we make decisions, if not always, according to how we feel, right? And a lot of things come into play here. So sometimes we make a decision using confirmation bias. So we just look for information that confirms what we want, not what is good to do. We overestimate. Someone has a good idea, but we don't like them, so personal feelings interrupt a good decision making process. Groupthink. Actually, I had a good video for you. Maybe Mustafa can put the link on the chat in the chat room. It's a bit old, but it's quite compelling to watch, and it's funny. It's about how groupthink can influence a team. Now, groupthink is when people follow even though it's stupid, and that can be very dangerous. A leader with high emotional intelligence can recognize whether he has good collaboration in the team, or actually, and unfortunately, regrettably, just a groupthink symptom, when everybody just says yes because they don't want to be looked at as different, or as someone who is combative of other people's opinion. So all of these are things that we need to think of when we make decisions. Am I overestimating? Am I letting my personal feeling interfere? All of these are very important. So leading difficult team members is something where emotional intelligence plays a big role. Now, of course, you can have a lot of what they call archetypes, like the passive aggressive, the smiling delayer, the dictator, the negative Nelly. She always has a but for everything, the perfectionist, and the drama queen. So we have 3 males and 3 females here, so I'm not I'm not being biased there. All right. The thing is, we might be the difficult person to someone. This is something that we shouldn't forget, because we tend to say, help me manage difficult people or difficult characters. And very often we are the difficult person to someone. This is why we need to encourage mature team members to give us feedback. When I say mature, I mean professionally mature. I don't mean an age. It would be good also, it would be very brave to start an anonymous box for feedback and see what people say. Zoom out, reflect, like we said before, and invest in professional training and coaching, in leadership, and in leading other people. That's really important. So yeah, that's quite a thing. I have a scenario for you here. Maybe Sadi, you tell me if the poll is ready for this one. I like to use this one often because it really ignites, it triggers quite a debate, usually in the workshop. So you've got this project manager. She's really good with clients. She gets results. She delivers. But once she's, done, the team members want to run away or they don't want to work with her anymore. So what do? Let her be 16%. Let's see. Okay. And Paul, you tell me if you see the results. Yeah, it's really important to recognize a perfectionist. In English, usually when you have an ist at the end of a word, it's not a good thing. So some people like to brag and say, "Oh, you know what? I am a perfectionist." That's not exactly a good thing. A perfectionist is someone who always want, to do better. So we don't have clear quality criteria. They burn out easily because they work more than they should, and they work, with team members who become very frustrated. So this person needs coaching, absolutely. She needs to be told that engagement and satisfaction of stakeholders are part, of success criteria. They should be satisfied. That's really important. Ibtisam, you say give us a bit time to vote. Sorry, I saw it. I saw the bars stopping actually. Okay. But yeah. So I thought it was ready for publishing. But anyway, we need to agree on acceptance criteria, Nora. It's really important to talk to this person, to coach her, to show her that in order to call herself successful, she needs to engage the stakeholders, to motivate them, and she should be a part of the solution in the organization to help retain the people, not help them flee. Help them flee the the organization. So remember that you're a leader, so you set the temperature. It's important to establish communication avenues, in projects, for example, between the PM and the project sponsor. Sometimes the sponsor says, only come to me when you have, good news. I don't want to hear bad news. That's not good for the project or for the clarity or for transparency. Ensure you give people clarity. That's very important. And always think of the big picture in your team. So treat emotions like another language. Everybody has their way of displaying emotions. You might have someone very quiet, very shy. Other people are very expressive. So you are there to look out for your team. And you need to ensure that you're helping them develop. A lot of project managers tell me, I'm not a school. I don't have time. I have a tight deadline. Well, when you have like a 3-year or 5-year project, I don't see why you don't have the time to train people. It doesn't have to be, formal training. It could be peer training, shadowing, reverse shadowing. So that's really important. And very often, when we have a problem in the team, we don't want to go up the chain. So we don't want to tell on the person because we don't want to come through as a tattleteller. But sometimes this is the only solution. Once you try, resolve a conflict, it doesn't work. Well, then what can we do? Now, it's important to be empathetic, but don't be a toxic handler. Let me clarify what a toxic handler is. It's someone who is, the big ear in the team or the organization. Everybody goes to this person when they're frustrated, when they have a problem, when they have a crisis, because there's no one in the leadership of the organization that will listen to them. And that can, become really toxic. That's why we call it a toxic handler for the person, when they always have to listen to people complaining and and people being unhappy and things like that. So you need to ensure that you don't become a toxic handler in the team, and that you don't let someone become a toxic handler. It's not healthy for the team or for the person. So let's remember that culture is the soul of the organization. It's really important to show people what's the flesh and blood, as they say, of the company, what matters, what we value, what we encourage, what we don't encourage. All of that is really important. So you see, people see culture. Some people see culture like the image that you have on the left, the culture of the organization, just a big obstacle there. And some people see it as something very flexible, very helpful in developing. I'm going to wrap up with change. So emotional intelligence and change. The pioneer of change well, nowadays, in modern time, it's the name that's the most famous one associated or very often paired with change is Carter. And he really talked quite a bit about the importance of having a change manager or a change leader who's quite emotionally intelligent, especially that it's very, very important to listen to people's wants and needs and reasons to resist. That's all very important. So resistance, for example, is not always negative, you see, and it's quite an excuse for a lot of leaders. Oh yeah, it didn't work because people don't like change, they resist change. And here I have another video that's quite interesting in terms of emotional intelligence, that's called resistance to change. Isn't it obvious? And that's Mustafa, I think, will put the link as well in the chat box. I highly recommend you watch it. So it's really important to own your part as a leader of change. If you are managing the change, to have a good persuasive pitch, to show how we can be positively impacted with the change and the risks of being negatively impacted. But all of that, don't forget what's in it for them, not just what is good for the company. A lot of times you hear the people saying, well, we're doing this, we're going to change because it's very good, the company will be making more money. Well, I don't really care about the money making that you're doing. I want a more comfortable situation. I want to develop, maybe I want to have a new experience, a new network. So never forget what's in it for them. This is how you prepare your pitch, you reward the enablers, and make sure you recognize those people who helped with that. So very often pitfalls of change or lack of motivation or overestimation. Some companies want to change everything at the same time, and nothing works. Don't worry about the link. If it's not put by the end of the session, I'll make sure it's being sent to you. So very often in change, companies take too much change on, or change initiatives, and nothing works. So this is why we need to listen to the people, survey, question them, engage them. That's really important, to engage stakeholders. Okay, this is the framework you have built. Don't worry about the arrows and just look at the different components. This is the result of my PhD thesis on engagement and motivation of stakeholders in projects. And what I found is that these were two very, very important components: clarity and significance, or meaning and meaningfulness. Make it clear and make it significant for the people. Give them autonomy. Show them that you trust their competence, or train them. And building rapport. So rapport includes having good communication, understanding people. All of that is very closely tied to emotional intelligence. So this is something that transformational leaders have. So now, with COVID-19 and almost everyone going online, we have a little bit more challenges, but I've got a couple solutions for you. It's become harder to listen online. It's become more challenging to bring your personality, who you are online, because you know in a live or in-person environment, it's much easier to come through as your person, through your body language, your gestures, etc. It's more challenging actually when you do it online. So we need to think about how to learn more, how to talk, to be listened to. And there is also a TED Talk video that I'll send you the link for. That's quite interesting on how to talk in a way you want to make people want to listen to you. So it has to do with what you say, your choice of words, the tone, all of that. And I'm sure all of that, all of us would be interested in developing those competencies. Okay, so you know how they say business, it's not personal. Business is personal. That's what I truly believe. It's always been personal, and it always will be personal, and all roads lead to a human dimension. This is why it's really important to have emotional intelligence. And it's for the leaders to think long term with building and developing leaders instead of just thinking quarterly bottom line. Of course that's important, but Al was using that word ambidextrous. I hope I pronounced it right too. It's the ability to do things well now while developing capacities and competencies for the future. That's really important. So I'll wrap it up like this. I'll thank you very much for staying with me for the hour. And it's time for questions and answers. Saadi, make sure you only take the questions that will make me look good. Thank you, everyone.
First of all, thank you, Radhia. This is very interesting. I think everybody is happy. And I can't find a question that will make you look good.
Okay.
So maybe I'm gonna hammer you with a couple of PhD questions. Let's stop the presentation and start with the questions. I believe also we have several people who might like to ask questions themselves.
You're welcome, everyone. You're welcome. Whoever is saying merci or thank you, you're most welcome.
Okay. So let us start. There was a question I wanted to start with. Just give me a second, please. Okay. This is from Sahar Al-Hijri. Dr. Radhia just mentioned the importance of asking WH questions when she talked about the article, The Power of Questions. So she says, what if the top management business owners are too conservative in exchanging info, even when asked WH questions?
Yeah, that's a big challenge. I mean, it's quite challenging to manage upwards. One of the things that I find works is to show them how you can get better results by answering those questions within your team, and set a model within your team that maybe you can helps become scalable in the organization. So a lot of people, we assume they're conservative by nature or by DNA. They would never answer those questions, but sometimes it's a matter of habit. So it's important to try to challenge those assumptions. And if you don't get answers, ask how we can get the information and show them why it is important and what the benefit would be of answering those questions. I think with what's happening now and all the new ecosystem that we have, people are more inclined to show leadership, even if they're not really always genuine leaders, but they're worried about coming through as fakes. So they'll probably listen. Of course, we have to accept something. We can't change everyone. That's not how it works, but you can attempt and set a model in your team.
Okay. But some leaders or some managers never change, no matter what. Now,
And I
Farah,
think, yes,
yeah,
yes, Adi, go ahead,
yes.
please.
She's asking how to balance the trade-off between not being perfectionist and quality management as part of PM knowledge areas. Now, I'm not going to speak about my experience in perfectionists. I'm going to leave this to Radhia, but personally, I send them to our office in the North Pole.
Okay. Yeah, there's quite a difference between high quality and perfectionism. First of all, quality, as a PM, or for those of you who studied, quality management or the PMP, that quality means meeting requirements. So, what are the requirements? That's the thing. We should set those very clearly at the beginning. Look, this is what I want. The leader should say, this is what I want. It should be a common agreement. Once this is done, I'm happy with it. Make sure you save some time to help train the team and help develop the team. And if you've noticed with version 6, for example, of the PMBOK, there's been much talk about success criteria that we set at the beginning. One of them is, satisfaction of stakeholders. Let's not forget that the team members are important stakeholders. So I was a bit of a perfectionist at the time, and I remember that sometimes Sadi would push me to send material, and he'd just say, send it now, and I'd say, no, I still want to improve it a little bit, and he'd say, no, I'm sure it's good enough, send it now. And actually, it was quite liberating because then I felt, I had it done, and that's what mattered. So there is really a difference between quality, excellence even, and perfectionism.
Actually, if you want to be agile, it's against the traditional perfectionist who might take 2 months to perfectionate or to make perfect something which is already good after working on it for 2 days. Okay, we don't have time, we don't have enough resources, we have to deliver, and agile is about making mistakes and learning from them. The perfectionists sometimes they are afraid of making the mistake.
Right.
Okay, because yeah. So
I didn't mean to interrupt you. I agreed.
yeah, sure, no problem. Type. Let's take another question. I had several people who wanted to join in. Actually, I sent several invitations to join us, okay, and speak in person and video,
Yes.
but none actually joined.
Maybe I didn't see it. I saw Faiza, she asked about 3 times in the chat box. She was asking if there is an upcoming PMP training. So just let me take this question, Sadi, because we're actually launching very soon to come PMP live online training session. So it's coming up June 7. If you're interested, please write to algeria@advisors.co, not .com.
Okay,
Yes,
thank you, Radhia.
Perfectionists need additional time. That's the problem too.
Yeah.
Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah. Okay. Now I have a question from Abir. I think Abir Taif. When we talk, but this is a tough question. When we talk about change, we often talk about emotional intelligence. What skills and mindsets do managers display to lead change without rejection? Now she has 3 questions. Let me start with the first one. Okay. I'll repeat it. What skills and mindsets do managers display to lead change without rejection?
Okay. All right. So what do they display, or what do they need to display? I'm going to assume you meant what do they need to display? And I'll say that they need to be excellent communicators, excellent listeners. Listen to the people, make sure they understand if people are ready for this change, that we don't just parachute something onto the teams. that we involve people who have, experience and know-how in the change process. We need someone, of course, with leadership skills who is going to have a good influence, someone who is persuasive. That's really important because change is a persuasive exercise. And we need to draw our language from the team, not, like I said, what's in it for them, not just go and say, this is really good because it will make the company quite, wealthier or amongst the first in the country or whatever, but people need to take something home with them, more comfort or more development or more knowledge. So that's really important. To be someone with high emotional intelligence is very important. Change management is a very human process. So we need someone very humane and someone with high emotional intelligence skills.
Okay, thank you. I have a
Sure.
question. Actually, Dr. Al Zaitoun wanted to join us.
Yes, please.
Also, I sent him an invitation. I sent several invitations to several persons, but I don't know why they can't join. We'll check this later on. Nevertheless, there is a good question from Ahmed al-Shihri. He says, I have an issue with one of my team. He's talking too much with no clear objective. How to deal with him? Other
Okay.
than the North Pole policy.
Okay. We need to, first of all, we need to understand why this person talks too much. Oh, well, is it compulsive? Is it someone who, as a habit talks always too much? Or are they frustrated? And this is why, they talk too much, or they haven't really understood what the culture is about. Sometimes when we go from a company to another, it takes time to adjust. And we were in a company where everybody talked all the time. Then we go to another one where it's quiet, so we have to understand why. You made me think, Ahmed, right? It was Ahmed, of
Yes, Ahmad Sheikh.
another maybe dimension of it. So some people, they do a lot of things and they don't get anything done, and that's also a problem because they're working, they're busy. It's not like they're lazy or something, but they actually don't accomplish anything. These people need a lot of coaching. So some, maybe this person, they talk a lot because they don't know how to choose their words as well. It's really important to invest in communication skills. That's really important.
Okay, I think Al joined. Hi, Al.
Hello.
Hey,
Good to see you again.
thank you, thank you. I don't want to be like adding questions. You're getting a lot of great questions. I just want to be
Yeah.
more complimentary, and Saadi and I are always keen on themes, and I think there's a lot of very good thematics between your session today, Dr. Radhia, and what has been going on already in the series. So it's a fantastic addition. So I wanted, number one, to complement that. And then secondly, to try to really, I think most of the participants and most of the questions reflect there's a degree of being anxious about the future, right? So what is that future leader going to look like? Not only the future organization, that's already a huge question mark, because, and that's a big part of the passion Dr. Sadia and I have about coming out of COVID-19 and being a massive change event, what kind of a future organization are we going to have to be, especially from an agility standpoint? And you just heard Dr. Saad a few minutes ago talk about also the perfectionist and agile kind of a comparison piece. But also really just, I would imagine everyone, you still have many hundreds still on the session. I think we're all curious about how that DNA of a future leader coming out of COVID-19, back to even the questions, you had great polling today, and one of which was talking about the gap between how much is the gap between what we believe our emotional intelligence, the awareness component is, versus really what it really is, right? So is this going to change that? Is the COVID-19, are some of those opportunities or the, let's call it the gift side of what we're going through, in your opinion, and some of where the research is heading, going to affect tremendously the future leader? It would be a great point maybe to complement. I personally believe it is, but I want to definitely hear your thoughts. And I think you asked me a very tough question at the end of mine about, are we getting through to the top leaders?
So
I
you're
should
getting
ask
right
you
back to
back, are we getting through to the top leaders in terms of this being a power skill? Because at the end of the day, I do believe it's going to be a very powerful skill in the future.
Thank you, Al. Yeah, that's quite a question there. You got right back at me. But yes, I do agree with you. I do believe that it's going to resonate with some people. I mean, just think of all the people that totally refused remote working or telecommuting. What did they have to say with COVID? So I could really read it on some people's face. When I had the cat saying, what the heck or whatever, they are worried now, and they know that they need to clean up their act, and that people are looking at them for changes. They know that they need to display more emotional intelligence. And in terms of DNA, I'd rather say, it's maybe a little bit of DNA, but it can be developed and can be improved. So it would be great to have and to train leaders with emotional intelligence. But, they say trees die from the top. And if the organization doesn't promote it, if it doesn't become success criterion, if we always go back to how much money we made this quarter without thinking about what's coming up in the longer future, it's not going to cut it. We'll have some PMs, some leaders who are very good and people want to work with them, but overall the organization is not going to change. So this is why it's really the time, and I think a lot of people have heard the message, nobody's too cool to school. It's really important to send everybody back to training and coaching and evaluating, and that's really important. So lots of empathy, lots of listening, lots of fresher perspectives, and taking into account other cultures' perspective, and I think that's that. I'll wrap it up like that. But if you want to add anything, Al, I'll be glad to.
No, I think it's perfect. I don't want to take. I want to allow other questions as well. It was great to jump back in and connect with you directly. I think you mentioned it earlier as well. The piece about the culture, which is very important, because at the end of the day, that's going to be very critical. However,
Yes.
cultures also require new systems and new thinking process and new mindsets, right? So that's what I'm hoping the 100 still attending your session would take on back to their organization. So yes, we all can be more trained and get a lot stronger and the attributes of EQ, but at the end of the day, we have a responsibility for the change that we want to see in these organizations, because unless we wake up some of those decision makers and the mindsets that are at the top of many of these organizations,
Absolutely.
to drive a different culture and to drive very different systems of the many points you raise. You raise all the key points, from a reward standpoint, from all kinds of attributes that will emphasize new behavior. So it's a pleasure. It's good to see you. It's good to
Thank
see
you. Thank you, Al,
that kind of
for
an
the feedback.
energy.
Really appreciate it.
I'm happy to step away and let you enjoy the last few questions, etc. in your
No,
session.
really,
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Much
Thank you, Al.
appreciated.
Thank you, Al.
All the best. Thank you,
very
Dr.
much.
Sadi.
Bye-bye.
Okay, thank you. So let's go back to our questions. I have a question from my friend Imad from Aramco, and he's saying, if you are leading a multi-diverse organization of more than 15 nationalities, how can emotional intelligence help or manage such a challenge?
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, emotional intelligence is a really important for cross-cultural teams. When you have 15 different cultures or nationalities on your team, it means that you won't be able to learn each and every one of them. It's not like, you're working with let's say a Norwegian team, and you learn the culture for a while because you'll be working with them. So it's very important to get signals. It's like, learning a new language. So you need to do a lot of mimicry. They say people who are very good listeners can do very good oral mimicry. So they learn faster than the language, right? So they listen and they speak better, whether it's, Arabic or French or English or other languages. Same with emotionally intelligent leaders. I see you, Sadly, looking at your little daughter, I think. And
Exactly.
I hope she's well. I hope she's enjoying her time in the mountain. So yeah.
Yes, she's going to leave the room now. Okay, because I still have a session.
Okay. So
Okay.
I was saying it's like learning, a language, but this is about getting the science. So setting ground rules from the beginning and telling this 50 nationality team what is tolerated and what is not tolerated. Make it clear. What are our values and what do we recommend? Because when you have people from all these nationalities, very often they don't know. They don't know what is tolerated in your culture. So it's really important to set ground rules from the beginning, and making sure that actually people agree with the values of the organizations, with the value of the team, and that it is accepted by those people from those 15 different nationalities.
Okay. Um Back to our questions. You see what people see on the videos that are done from home, the kids. Okay, I just had this episode now.
Yeah, that's nice.
Um,
It's quite endearing, Sadi. I don't mind at all, and I'm sure our audience doesn't either. I see Mustafa has
uh,
some.
Mustafa's joining us. Great. Hello, Mustafa.
Hello, Sadi.
Hello. We cannot see you. There is a button for your video. If you can press it, please.
I'm trying to open it. Okay.
Okay.
Hello.
Well, first of all, I'd like to welcome Mustafa Hafiz over from Turkey. You don't have a headset, so there's an echo.
Yeah, I'm now on a journey. We have started working out of our company, so I'm not at my home now. I'm at a hotel with my cellular phone. So we are getting to the new normal. We are getting normalized in Turkey.
Okay.
I think the echo comes from Sadi, not Mustafa. There's some echo there, Sadi, or is it me too? Maybe.
No, there will be an echo. Never mind. I'd like to welcome Mustafa next week. He's going to speak about digital project management. Hopefully
Yes,
with
right.
no echo. And Mustafa, would you like to ask Radhia something tonight?
First of all, thank you for the great presentation, Radhia. Emotional intelligence is one of my favorite topics.
That's great.
Because I see it as a milestone in our leadership journey. So it's a part of that journey. So it is very valuable. And I also see very valuable that you mentioned change management when you were talking about emotional intelligence. And I will also get into change management when I'm presenting digital project manager, because we are now really trying to get into the digital world. That means that we need to change. So change is everywhere, like from our perspective or from our leadership journey to also our digital journey. So that was very nice. Thank you for mentioning change management as well.
Thank you, Mustafa. And I'm looking forward to your presentation.
Me too. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mustafa. Okay.
Bye-bye.
We'll see you next week.
I hope.
Stay safe.
Stay safe.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
So let's go. Now, one thing is that we exceeded the time like usual. Okay. So it's 10:20. We still have 241 people. I'm gonna extend it for 10 more minutes to take some more questions. So I'm gonna go back to some of the questions. Now, I had a question, a long one from Ahmed Abdussalam, but interesting, from Tunis. Thank you for insightful presentation. I've been recently watching The Last Dance documentary featuring Michael Jordan, one of the greatest athletes ever. Documentary confirmed that taking things personally was fooling Michael Jordan drive. We have been told every single day that taking things personally is bad. mainly in a corporate business environment filled with empty suits. Putting yourself in a box while caring too much about the external world perception will suffocate you over time, and you will never achieve greatness while following the herd path. How to survive a boring and hostile corporate environment while being yourself.
What was the first name of the person who asked this question?
Ahmed Abdussalam. Ahmed is
Ahmed.
one of
Another Ahmed,
the very,
mashallah. Tonight,
yes, very
Ahmeds are
nice
very,
people.
very eloquent. And,
Actually, Ahmed is our partner in Tunisia and Morocco. Okay, we did not announce this yet, but we were talking about it.
Okay.
Very nice fellow, extremely professional. Like our school, it seems the people whom we work with, the ones who attend our webinars, we are all the same. And I'm happy about that.
Actually, I wanted to say, just before I answer, Ahmed, what you did, you and Mustafa, is great, Saadi. I don't think it's just webinars. It's become a community of people who like to see each other, I believe. Maybe the audience here will confirm. They like to see, they enjoy seeing each other, online every Wednesday. I actually do. Ahmed, yeah, I really am glad you brought this up. I was actually going to include Michael Jordan Last Dance documentary in this presentation, but then I decided not to because I didn't finish it. Although my son kept saying, "You have go watch it. It's really interesting," and it's on Netflix for those who wanted to watch. It's also about grit, wanting to, doing whatever it takes to realize or to achieve your purpose. So how to keep in a boring corporate environment, how to keep being yourself. First of all, you have to decide whether you want to stay. Because some corporate environments are really draining, and sometimes I don't know all the details of the situation you're asking about, but sometimes the right decision is to leave. Although I usually never encourage someone to leave their positions unless they have something better waiting for them. And of course that they've handed over everything properly. Now, it's really important, excuse me, it's really important to find our own ways to remain ourselves. And think about me, Ahmed. I was in Canada for a few years, and I'm a Muslim woman. I'm seen as an immigrant by many, although I've been a Canadian citizen for a long time. I went into politics, and I had the media questioning me, and questioning any of my frowning incidents, if you like. So you have, first of all, when you are genuine, it's easier to stay the same. When you are authentic to yourself, this is why it's really important to stay clear on your values. People who compromise their values are the first ones who are usually, drained or eaten, or I don't know what the right word would be, by a corporate environment that's quite boring. What I can think about in boring corporate environments is coaching potentials, new potentials. It's great. You meet, for example, younger people or people who have a different experience, and you coach them, you train them, and it's great to keep yourself. It's great to escape from the boring environment, and it's great to help develop leadership in the organization and maybe be part of the solution instead of the problem. So that's what comes to mind now about it. Thank you. Very interesting question there.
There's also a friend of mine from PMI-KSA, Nawaf Al-Ahmadi. He wants also to join. I don't know if Mustafa can get him to join, like you got Al and Mustafa Hafizullah. Meanwhile, there are many good questions still. What's your advice from Amr Ibrahim? What's your advice to who work in organizations that do not give attention to emotional intelligence?
Yeah, but yeah, absolutely. That's the situation very often. Like I said, we need to be part of the change that we want to happen. It would be really important to, first of all, when we go into an organization, to survey that organization. Not in statistics, but some companies you just go inside and you feel like this would be a great place to work, and they say, communication is the pulse of an organization, the way people talk to each other. Are they hush hush or are they very expressive? So before choosing a position, it's important to think, is this somewhere I want to spend more of half of my life in, right? So that's quite important. The other thing is, that when the organization is made of people who are the decision makers, when you capture the value, for example, of good stakeholder engagement, you capture the value, you show it to the decision makers, they should, eventually agree that this helps. I've gone through a lot of projects or companies, and I've worked with people who didn't recognize leadership, let alone emotional intelligence. But people have been changing because, change has to come also from the people. If you, for example, if you work in a multinational and you show them that it's okay, they can overwork you even if you're sick, and they can treat you like a robot, some of them will continue to do that. However, if you show that this is not where a talented person would like to work, or would like to develop, they'll eventually do things that would help, establish a good emotionally intelligent environment. But a lot of people need to talk. It's like a political change. It comes when the people are involved, and it comes when people make pressure in an intelligent manner and by showing the value and the benefits of doing it. Yeah, Ibrahim, I like Saad's background too.
Actually, I'm in my house in the mountains, so could not do it from the office this night. Okay, so let's go back to our questions. We have, can too much empathy diminish respect?
Okay, that's a very
From,
good question. I like
from
that.
Yasin Ben Das.
Yes, Yasin. I'm happy to see you here tonight. I've been in contact with Yasin a few times. Uh, that's the thing. People, they excuse me. Some people think that being emotionally intelligent means being friendly, and the friendlier you are, the less respect you might get. Actually, part of being emotionally intelligent is being assertive when you need to, showing people that there are limits on how they can talk to you or deal with you. Now, having a positive cheer and smiling and being nice to people is fine, as long and is recommended, of course, as long as they know that there are boundaries, and that there is a point where they need to stop. So I don't believe that the more empathy, the less respect. On the contrary.
Yes, I have another question from our friend Dr. Rahim Shira. And he's saying emotional intelligence versus political intelligence. Okay, lots of
Yeah.
politics inside organizations to survive.
Okay. Now, in the English language, politics doesn't have a negative connotation. Um, to to have politics skills is part of leadership skills, which means that you know how to engage your stakeholders, and you know what to say and what not to say, and when it's not the time to say it. So if that's what is political skills, then yes, absolutely, they need a lot of emotional intelligence. Otherwise, you can really get in trouble. Now, in some culture, being political is seen as negative. In French, there's a difference between un homme politique et un politicien, a politician, which means in French, it means that it's someone, who's just displaying a show, but actually they're not very genuine. So if having political intelligence means that we know how to engage stakeholders, how to communicate with them, that's fine, absolutely. If it means that we're not being genuine and we're just, displaying a show, then of course that's not what a leader is about.
Okay. Actually, I saw a note that people are asking for another in-depth session about emotional intelligence. I believe it's like a title that incorporates under it lots and lots of subtitles. And by all means, we cannot cover it in one session, and we cannot answer all the questions in one session. But I'm happy because I think this acted as an mind opener or opening the way, okay, to these interesting discussions. I always am happy whenever we end up with more questions than when we started. It means we learned something and we are tipping on the edge of our knowledge. Now, by this, I would like to thank you very much, Radhia, for being with us, for preparing very well and giving a very interesting topic tonight.
Thank you.
Until next week. Thank you. Until next week with Mustafa Hafiz Oglu. Stay safe.
Thank you all. Goodbye.
Bye bye.
Hello, my name is Dr. Saadi Adra. I'm offering a webinar, Breaking Organizational Silos During the Times of Social Distancing. Join me soon.
This is Dr. Ibrahim Shira speaking to you from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. We'll be focusing on public-private partnership contracts and privatization contracts. See you.
Hi, my name is Antonio Nieto Rodriguez. I was the chairman of the Project Management Institute in 2016. Today I'm going to talk to you about why project management needs to reinvent itself, and project managers too. So I look forward to see you in my webinar.
Hi, this is Al Zaytoun from Washington, D.C., USA. I look forward to interacting with you on the Advisors webinar titled Balancing People, Process, and Governance for Operational Sustainability. See you then. So long.
Hi there, I'm Radhia Benalia from Algeria. I'll be talking to you about emotional intelligence, leadership, and transformational change. I hope you're well. Stay safe.
This is Mustafa Hafizoğlu from Turkey. I'm offering you a webinar with advisors on digital project management.
Hi, I'm Dr. Sean Reagan from California and Prague, and I will be presenting a webinar with advisors on opportunities in crisis and complex situations, so please join me.